year was 1935, and the world had changed beyond recognition. In a small café in Tel Aviv, 3 women sat around a table, their faces lined with the stories of 3 decades. Tzeitel, Hodel and Chava, the daughters of Tevye, the milkman, had reunited after years apart. Tzeitel, the eldest, spoke first. Who would have thought our little Anatevka would be just a memory? Her eyes misted as she recalled their childhood home. She had stayed closest to their roots, settling in Warsaw with Motel. Their tailoring business had flourished with the Industrial Revolution, but the rise of nationalism brought new challenges. The Poland of today is not the one we moved to, she sighed. Hodel nodded, understanding all too well. After years in Siberia with Perchik, they embraced Zionism and made aliyah to Palestine. The world turned upside down, she mused. Perchik's dreams of equality found new life here in the Kibbutz movement. Her eyes shone as she described their life in Kibbutz Degania. You wouldn't believe it, sisters. Women and men work side by side, making decisions together. It's the equality Perchik always dreamed of, but with our own Jewish identity at its heart. Chava, once the family's rebel, now looked at her sisters with a mix of love and sorrow. I've seen the best and worst of this new world, she said softly. After reconciling with their father, she and Fiedke had moved to Germany. The promise of a modern secular society had drawn them, but the rising tide of ethnic nationalism cast a long shadow. We're thinking of joining you here in Eretz Yisrael, she admitted. The signs in Europe are too familiar, too frightening. As they talked, the themes of their father's struggles echoed through their own lives. Tradition and modernity continued their dance, but the music had changed. The Industrial Revolution that had transformed their little village had given way to huge factories and sprawling cities. The sisters marveled at the advances: electricity, automobiles, cinema, but also mourned a simpler time. Hodel spoke passionately about the new life being built in Palestine. Remember how Papa struggled with us reading those books? She smiled. Now, in the kibbutz, education is for everyone. Men, women, all equal. We're building a new society, rooted in our traditions, but looking to the future. They spoke of their other sisters, Sprinza, lost in the tumult of the Russian Revolution, and Bielka, who had emigrated to New York with their parents. The family, like the Jewish people, had been scattered by the winds of change. But here in Tel Aviv, they felt a new sense of coming home. As the afternoon wore on, their conversation turned to the future. The world was rumbling again, new ideologies clashing with old powers. They could feel the tension in the air, a sense that once again everything was about to change. What would Papa say about all this? Chava wondered aloud. About us building a Jewish homeland? Tzeitel smiled, her voice taking on their father's warm, humorous tones. As the good book says, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, but it forgot to add, and how we'll schwitz in this heat. They laughed, a sound of joy tinged with hope and determination. The sisters clasped hands as the sun began to set over the Mediterranean, casting long shadows through the café window. They were no longer the young girls of Anatevka, but women shaped by a world their father could scarcely have imagined. Yet in their hearts, they carried the warmth of tradition, the strength of family, and the hope for a better tomorrow in their ancient homeland. As they parted, each heading back to their corners of a changed world, Tzeitel to Warsaw, Chava possibly to join Hodel in the kibbutz, they carried with them a renewed sense of connection to each other, to their past and to the enduring spirit of their people. The world might change, but some bonds remained unbreakable, and new dreams took root in ancient soil.
A fiddler on the roof.
Tradition, tradition, tradition.
If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. All day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba.